Good evening. Welcome back to Lord Hellhound's Late Night Spook Show in the Horror and Metal channel. I'm Lord Hellhound, and figured I'd go ahead and count down my top 10 favorite metal albums from the year 1995. I'm only going to include albums that I actually own, and I have all these on CD. I don't have any on vinyl. But as for albums that I don't own, I haven't listened to as much, they could be honorable mentions. I'll list them in the description below. Off the top of my head, The Spider's Lullaby by King Diamond and Sacrifice by Motorhead, among others. Great albums, but I don't own them, so I haven't listened to them as much. They'll definitely be honorable mentions, and I'll leave even more in the description. Let's go get started. My top 10 favorite metal albums from the year 1995. All right. Let's do this. All right, number 10 is actually going to be Forbidden by Black Sabbath. I know. This is definitely one of Sabbath's weaker albums, and I used to dislike this album quite a bit. It's actually grown on me a lot over the years. This was the last one they did with vocalist Tony Martin, and for a while, this is the last Sabbath album that they ever put out. Until 13, which was our reunion with Ozzy, of course. That was almost 2 decades after this. So for a while, this is the last Sabbath album we had. And the great thing about Sabbath, though, is, all their albums, all their weaker albums are still good. They don't have a bad album, in my opinion. They don't have a Saint Anger or a Risk or a Elude, Divinum Insanus. All the albums that are, they're least, are still considered good in my opinion. Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die weren't anywhere near as good as their first 6, but I think they still have some gems on them. I think there's still some memorable tunes on there, and I think those 2 albums are kind of underrated. Same with Seventh Star, and same with this one. Those are all often considered Sabbath's weakest. And this is my least favorite of the Tony Martin era. It is a little different. I think it gets a lot of flack from the metal community for having a guest appearance by Ice-T on the first track, Illusion of Power. It's weird to have a rapper on a Black Sabbath album, but I don't think that detracts from it too much, But I kind of like Ice-T. He's a huge metal fan. He does guest appearances on a lot of metal albums, and he even has his own metal band in which he sings for Body Count. Speaking of Body Count, is actually the guitarist of that band, Ernie C., who did the production for this album, and allegedly he instructed drummer Cozy Powell to play his drums in a more hip-hop type of style. So yeah, there's definitely things that aren't, that are, not too good about this album. But like I said, it's grown on me. And I know that Tony Iommi actually came out with a new mix of it, a new production of this album on vinyl. And I've seen it in a few record stores. I really want to get my hands on that because I haven't listened to it. It is a little better. It definitely does improve. This is the original from 95, but I really want to get that vinyl. I'll get that pretty soon because I think it does sound a little better. This probably is Tony Martin's weakest performance on a Sabbath album, but he's still an amazing singer. He's still got powerful pipes. He can hit the high notes. He can do the vibrato. He's an amazing vocalist. His singing just spectacular. And even if he gives a bad performance, it's still going to be better than, or a weaker performance, I should say. So it'll be better than most vocalists out there. His rapping verses, near rapping verses on the on Illusion of Power, a little jarring, but I really like the chorus. Illusion of Power. Pretty cool. And I don't even mind Ice-T's verse, Like I said, the production by, Body Count guitarist Ernie C. It doesn't really, it's not like a full rap metal album or anything. But I also think that Get a Grip's a pretty good song. Can't Get Close Enough is good. Shaking Off the Chains. Definitely a few good tracks. Like I said, it's not as good as the other Tony Martin albums. It's not usually even as good as, most of Sabbath's output. They could definitely do better than this. But like I said, it's not a terrible album. It's not a bad album. I'd say it's good. And I think it's good enough to be on this list of my favorites from 1995. I do have it very low. It's number 10. But like I said, I still like it. And, if you listened to this album years ago and thought that it was crap, give it another listen. You might be surprised. And like I said, I really want to check out that new mix on the vinyl because that improves it in a lot of ways. But yeah, Forbidden by Black Sabbath. It's their forbidden fruit for a reason. It's one of their weaker albums, but still not bad. Still pretty good. Still some decent moments, some memorable tracks, and, again, like I said, they don't have a bad album, and even their weaker albums are still better than most bands. So, I'd give Forbidden a chance, though, I do totally understand a lot of the criticisms. They are valid, but I still dig it for the most part, you know, despite its flaws. You know, nowhere near a perfect album, but it's decent enough. Like I said, Spider's Lullaby by King Diamond and Sacrifice by Motorhead. A few others I don't have, probably should be on this list, but we're just including albums I own. So anyway, I already talked about that. Let's go ahead and move on. Number 9 is going to be Battles in the North by Immortal. Yeah, pretty good black metal album. This is another good album to listen to while walking through a snowy forest during the winter time with icicles on the trees and icy winds blowing. It really, really adds to that perfect cold atmosphere. Yeah, it's got a Both on bass and vocals, and he also plays drums on this album. And of course, Dimonez on lead guitar, and he also writes all the lyrics, I think. Well, back then, that was the lineup, you know, Dimonez and Abath. Then Dimonez had like tendonitis in his arm. He couldn't play guitar for a while, or some kind of ailment, and he just wrote the lyrics for a few albums. And Abath switched to lead guitar and vocals, and then Abath left and Dimonez rejoined, and now he does guitar and vocals. That's a long story. Anyway, this is one of their early albums and still one of their best. Yeah, great songs like the title track, The Stormy Gates of Mist, The Halls of Eternity. Probably my favorite Immortal song ever is Blashirk, Mighty Raven Dark. I really like that chorus. Yeah, you know, very raw, very gritty sounding production. You know, the buzzsaw guitars, the tremolo picking, the blast beats. Pretty cool. You know, definitely one of the best black metal albums from the mid-90s. So yeah, Battles in the North by Immortal. My 9th favorite metal album from the year 1995. All right, number 8 is going to be another black metal album, Panzerfaust by Dark Throne. Now, I don't like this quite as much as their Unholy Trinity, which is Blaze in the Northern Sky, Under a Funeral Moon, and Transylvanian Hunger, which I looked at all those albums and the previous favorite 1990s metal albums videos. It's still pretty good. You know, I'm pretty sure that this was only Nocturno Culto and Fenriz. They're basically the main two guys behind Dark Throne. They've had other members, other musicians working with them on some of the albums. It's really just those two pretty much doing everything. It's their band. And I think on this one, I think Fenriz actually played all the instruments. I believe Nocturno Culto only did vocals. Don't quote me on that because I could have that wrong. But I think that was the case with the last album too, Transylvanian Hunger. I think Nocturno Culto just did vocals. So he usually does lead guitar. And drummer Fenriz does everything else. But I think Fenriz did all the instruments. I think that Nocturno Culto did vocals on tracks 1 through 6, and it was actually Fenriz who did the lead vocals on track 7. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names right, but whatever. I don't speak Norwegian, so, you know, oh well. But, yeah, really great album. Yeah, Triumphant Gleam, The Hordes of Nebula, Beholding the Throne of Might. Pretty cool, yeah. If you're into black metal, chances are you probably already checked out this one. I think it's definitely one of the best. So yeah, Panzerfaust by Dark Throne. Awesome record, for sure. All right, next we got some good old death metal. It's going to be Pierce From Within by Suffocation. Yeah, it's a great death metal album. I really love Frank Mullen's vocals. He's one of my favorite death metal vocalists, and yeah, the guitar playing by Terrence Hobbs and Doug Cerrito is at one point. I don't think Mike Smith was in the band. Yeah, I don't think he was on this album. But yeah, he was with the band for a while. I don't think he's with them anymore either. Neither is vocalist Frank Mullen for that matter. But this is definitely one of the best releases that the band did, in my opinion. Yeah, the title track, Thrones of Blood, Depths of Depravity, Suspended in Tribulation, Torn into Enthrallment. Yeah, really good stuff. Really heavy, really brutal. Yeah, somewhat technical, you know. Really evil sounding, really violent and aggressive. Really awesome death metal release. Yeah, Suffocation is one of the best death metal bands. I really could have seen. I wish I could have seen them in concert back when they had Frank Mullen, because like I said, he's one of my favorite death metal vocalists, and it really is kind of a shame that he's not in the band anymore, because he was a founding member. He was there from the beginning, so kind of sucks that he left, but what can you do? All right, so next going to be another death metal album. It's going to be Once Upon the Cross by Deicide. I don't like this quite as much as their first two, their self-titled debut and their sophomore album Legion, but it's still pretty good. It's still one of their better albums. I love Glenn Benton's vocals. I think he's one of the best death metal vocalists. The fact that he can switch between those low demonic growls and the high-pitched raspy screeches, almost borders on black metal type vocals a little bit, is just awesome. He does it with such precision and ease, even live, pretty good. Steve Osheim's a very underrated drummer too, one of the best in death metal. His drum beats are just sick. And, of course, the guitar playing, the leads and by the Hoffman brothers, Brian and Eric, are just freaking sound. Yeah, their riffs and solos are just immaculate, just on point. Really a shame that Eric and Brian Hoffman aren't in the band anymore, because, their guitar playing was one of my favorite parts of this band, of Deicide, for sure. It was definitely a great lineup they had back then, but of course Benton and Osheim are still in the band, of course, pretty much their band. They've got through a lot of guitarists since then. But yeah, Once According to the Cross by Deicide, the third album and one of their best. Yeah, death metal greatness for sure. All right, down to the top 5. So next is Burnt Offerings by Iced Earth. This is their third album and their first to feature vocalist Matt Barlow, who's actually my favorite singer that the band has ever had. Matt Barlow has an awesome voice. He can hit the high notes. I don't think this is his best vocal performance, and this isn't my favorite Iced Earth album, but it's still really good. I think I do prefer Night of the Storm Rider to the previous album, which was their second, a little bit over this. They had singer John Greeley that time. But like I said, Barlow is my favorite vocalist ever had, and rhythm guitarist, founder, and band leader John Schaefer had a really good lineup on this album for sure. Yeah, some of the best musicians that he's had in the band. And really great songs. The title track, Last December, Diary, Brainwash, Burning Oasis, pretty killer. Yeah, this album rips. Like I said, it's not my favorite from Iced Earth, and definitely sounds very power metal, which is cool. But I don't think it's their finest album. Finest hour. Getting tongue tied. I don't think it's Matt Barlow's best vocal performance, but it's definitely a great album. It's definitely pretty killer. All right, so it's hard to rank some of these in the top slots, in the top spots, whatever. But anyway, number 4, I think we're going to go with Domination by Morbid Angel. Now, I don't like this as much as their first 3, but it's still really, really good. Songs have great songs on it. This was the last to feature bassist and vocalist David Vincent, though he would return to the band a little later, and he only did one album with them after that. But this is the last one before he was replaced with bassist vocalist Steve Tucker. And it was actually the first to feature guitarist Eric Rutan, who's no stranger to death metal. And of course, now he's playing for Cannibal Corpse, and he's produced a lot of those albums as well. He's a producer, and he's also the leader of the band Hate Eternal. So he's stuck serious chops. Betrayed Sigto is one of my favorite guitarists of all time. He's my second favorite death metal guitarist, next to the late great Chuck Schuldiner. His riffs and solos are just immaculate, just unbelievable. Very, very unique, very distinct style of playing. His solos are very creative, some of the best I've ever heard in metal. Very, very imaginative, and he comes with really, really awesome, really breathtaking riffs as well. Yeah, the unique structure of these arrangements and compositions found in this album are just phenomenal as always. Morbid Angel can pretty much do no wrong except for Elude, Divinum, and Sanus. That wasn't very good, but all their other albums are at least good. This is definitely one of the really good ones. We're gonna Dominate, Where the Slime Lives, an awesome track. I really like David Vincent's vocals on there. He doesn't have that awesomely raspy hiss that he had on the first 2, Altars of Madness and Blessed Are the Sick, but he sounds more like he did on Covenant here. Kind of more of a generic death metal voice, but still really awesome. But I like his vocals on that track. They're almost clean. They're almost clean vocals. Also, Eyes to See, Ears to Hear is an awesome song. I love that chorus. I love that Transicto solo. Dawn of the Angry, Caesar's Palace, Inquisition. Yeah, it's really awesome solos. Sorry, are found throughout this album. Yeah, Trey Sigto is just a phenomenal player. Just So amazing, so groundbreaking, so unique for death metal. They're a very unique band. They're very diverse. They're a lot more versatile than some of their peers. But yeah, Morbid Angel's an awesome band, and Domination's an awesome album. Not my favorite, but still very, very, very good. Next is Astro Creep 2000 by White Zombie, which is technically their fourth and final studio album, but I always kind of knew this as their second main release, since they kind of, the first two I think were like independently released, and they kind of seemed to pretend like they didn't exist. They were very hard to find. But anyway, yeah, Astro Creep 2000. I had to include White Zombie because, like I said many times before on this channel, they're one of the bands that got me into metal. You know, I grew up in classic rock, and when I discovered White Zombie, it made me want to listen to heavier music. So yeah, they were pretty much responsible for my early days as a metalhead. My journey in metal pretty much started here. And yeah, I used to carry on the cassette tape years ago in my jean jacket and leather jacket pocket in high school, and I'd play the tape. I had a cassette player in my car. I'd play it in between classes and driving to and from school. So yeah, I still got the cassette right here. It's one of the few cassettes that I still have. So yeah, pretty cool, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I kind of started out, a lot of the albums that I was first getting into metal, I got on tape initially. But yeah, Astro Creep 2000 by White Zombie. Yeah, great album. I love Electric Head Part 1. I love the intro, and I love how heavy the chorus is. It's probably my favorite song of the album. Supercharger Heaven is awesome too. Electric Head Part 2 is awesome. Grease Paint and Monkey Brains is great. Grease Paint and Monkey Brains, sorry. Most people, their favorite song is More Human Than Human. That's probably their biggest hit on this album. I really like that song too. It's awesome, but it's not my favorite. But still really good. But yeah, awesome album. Yeah, of course you got, Rob Zombie's vocals. He was always one of my heroes growing up. Yeah, Sean Isolt's bass playing his sound. This was the first one to feature drummer John Tempesta, who would also play drums on Rob Zombie's first two albums and his first two solo albums. And he's been in a lot of metal bands. Of course, I have Jay Younger on guitar. He's my favorite guitarist that White Zombie ever had. But yeah, Astro Creep 2000 by White Zombie, the band that got me into metal. Hell yeah, had to put that close at the top because, if it wasn't for them, I probably would have gotten to metal anyway. But I think that albums like that accelerated the process. Yeah, good old White Zombie. All right, number 2 is going to be Storm of the Light's Bane by Dissection. Hell yeah, I love this band. Yeah, melodic black metal mixed with a little bit of a melodic death metal feel too. Yeah, John Nodvite was very, very talented. Yeah, very scary dude for sure. If you read about some of his extracurricular activities, but very talented. He was definitely a genius. Yeah, great guitarist, great songwriter, great black metal vocals. Yeah. Yeah, great songs like Night's Blood, Unhallowed, or Dead Angels Live. It's probably my favorite song from this band. Yeah, Retribution, Storm of the Light's Bane, Thorns of Crimson Death, Soul Reaper. This CD comes with a second disc with some bonus material, so it's definitely a must-have if you're a fan of this band. Yeah, Dissection's friggin' awesome, and Storm of the Light's Bane is a great album. They only did 3 albums. Their first 2 were just friggin' phenomenal. It's close to, perfection as you can get when it comes to melodic black metal, in my opinion. Yeah, great stuff. John Nodvite, very, very talented musician. Rest in peace. Yeah, killer album. It just rips. Hell yeah. All right, like I said, if I think of any honorable mentions, I'll list them in the description below as I think of them. Let's go and look at my number 1. My number 1 favorite metal album from the year 1995 is going to be Symbolic by Death. Hell yeah, I love this album. I love this band. Chuck Schuldiner was a genius. He's my number 1 favorite death metal guitarist ever. The man was extremely talented. He always found great musicians to work with him. He always had a great lineup. Of course, this album had the great Gene Hoglan on drums. He's just a virtuoso with a drum kit, just amazing. He was, of course, on Individual Thought Patterns as well with the great Steve DiGiorgio. But in this album, the bass playing was done by Kelly Conlon. Yeah, great stuff. I like how, Chuck Schuldiner, yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, he was one of my heroes. I like how, he had a great guitarist, great songwriter, great death metal vocals. And I like how his vocal style kind of differed a little bit from album to album. It sounded a little different each time. No vocal style was, he didn't really do the same vocal style twice. Not too close anyway. Kind of did something different with each album. So they're a pretty diverse band as well. Lots of good variety. Lots of diversity. Yeah. They're probably my favorite death metal band. Morbid Angel will be a close second, but Death's probably my favorite. Yeah. It's basically all just It's basically, well, it was definitely Chuck Schuldner's band, the godfather of death metal, the late great Chuck Schuldner, rest in peace. Yeah, amazing guitar playing, amazing leads. His riffs and solos are very creative, just immaculate, just perfect. And like I said, his death metal vocals, his deep demonic growls were just awesome. Great songs like the title track, Zero Tolerance, Empty Words, Sacred Serenity, Crystal Mountain, which is a very different type of song for them, very different for death metal in general. I really like it. Really unique. Kind of really speaks to me. It's really awesome. Misanthrope, Perennial Quest. And this album, this CD contains a lot of bonus tracks, demo versions of some of the songs. Definitely a death metal masterpiece. One of the best metal albums ever. And my favorite from the year, 1995. Check it out. If you're into death metal, chances are you probably have. But just in case you haven't, check it out. You will not be disappointed because it freaking slays. Awesome album. All right, guys, well, let me know what some of your favorite metal albums from the year 1995 are in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching my late night spook show here in the Horror and Metal channel. I'm Lord Hellhound. Until next time, later.